Juliet was 23 when she first saw George at her cousin's wedding in Enugu. He stood near the high table, tall and handsome in his navy blue agbada, laughing with a group of men who seemed to hang on his every word. Everything about him screamed success: the gold watch on his wrist, the confident way he carried himself, the respect people showed him when he passed. Juliet's aunt leaned over and whispered, "That's George Okafor. His father owns half the real estate in the state. A good man, they say. Well-mannered, God-fearing. Any girl would be blessed to have him." Juliet felt her heart flutter when their eyes met across the room. He smiled at her, a slow, deliberate smile that made her look away shyly. By the end of the night, he had found his way to her side, asking her name, compliments flowing easily from his lips. He told her she was the most beautiful woman in the room, that he couldn't take his eyes off her the entire evening. Within weeks, he was visiting her parents' compound with wine and cola nuts, speaking respectfully to her father, making her mother blush with his charm. George courted Juliet like a prince courting a princess. He took her to the finest restaurants in Enugu and Abuja, bought her expensive clothes and jewelry, sent her flowers every Friday without fail. He never raised his voice, never showed even a hint of anger. When she spoke, he listened intently, his dark eyes fixed on her face as if she were saying the most important things in the world. Her parents were overjoyed. Her father would say, "Juliet, this is what we prayed for, a man of means who treats you well." Her mother would add, "Hold him tight, my daughter. Men like this don't come every day." 6 months after they met, George knelt before her family with his people and paid her bride price. The traditional marriage was grand, with 7 different groups performing, coolers of rice and goat meat for every guest, and wrappers for all the women. Juliet felt like she was living in a dream. On their wedding night, as George held her close in their new home in Independence Layout, he whispered, "You're mine now, Juliet. Forever mine." She thought it was romantic then. She didn't hear the possession in his voice. She didn't see the subtle shift in his eyes, the way softness was already beginning to harden into something else. The first 3 weeks of marriage were blissful. George still came home early, still complimented her cooking, still made love to her with tenderness. But slowly, quietly, things began to change. It started with small criticisms. The soup was too salty. She didn't iron his shirt properly. She laughed too loudly when his friends visited. Then came the questions. Where had she gone that afternoon? Why did she take so long at the market? Who was that man she greeted at church? Juliet tried to please him, adjusting everything about herself to match what he wanted. But no matter how hard she tried, it was never enough. The first time George hit her was on a Thursday evening, 2 months after their wedding. Juliet had prepared nsala soup, his favorite, but she'd added a bit too much shiitake leaf, and it tasted slightly bitter. She saw his face change as he tasted it, saw the darkness cloud his eyes. "What is this rubbish?" he said quietly, too quietly. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I can make something else. Let me." Before she could finish, his hand flew across the table and struck her face with such force that she fell off her chair onto the cold tile floor. Her cheek burned, her ear rang, and for a moment she couldn't breathe from shock. George stood over her, his face twisted with rage she had never seen before. "You stupid woman! Is this what I married? Someone who can't even cook a simple soup?" Tears streamed down Juliet's face as she trembled on the floor. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Get up and cook something proper," he snarled, then walked out of the dining room. Juliet stayed on that floor for almost 10 minutes, shaking, her hand pressed to her burning cheek, trying to understand what had just happened. This couldn't be the same man who had courted her so sweetly, who had promised to cherish her forever. That night, when she finally gathered the courage to come to bed, George acted as if nothing had happened. He even pulled her close and said, "I'm sorry I lost my temper. You just frustrate me sometimes. But I love you. You know that, right?" Juliet wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe it was a one-time thing, that the pressure of his work had made him snap, that the sweet George would return. But the sweet George was gone forever. The second incident happened 3 weeks later when Juliet's brother called her phone while George was in the shower. She answered cheerfully, and they chatted briefly about their mother's health. When George came out and saw her on the phone, his face darkened immediately. "Who is that?" "My brother Chitty," she started to explain, but George snatched the phone from her hand and threw it against the wall where it shattered into pieces. I've told you I don't want you talking to anybody when I'm not around. Are you deaf? But it's my brother, Juliet protested, shocked. That was a mistake. George grabbed her by the throat and slammed her against the wall, his fingers pressing into her windpipe until she couldn't breathe, until black spots danced before her eyes. Don't you ever raise your voice at me. Do you hear me? I own you. I paid for you. You belong to me. When he finally released her, Juliet collapsed to the floor, gasping and coughing, her throat on fire. George stood over her, breathing heavily, then seemed to catch himself. He knelt beside her with sudden remorse on his face. Baby, I'm sorry. You just make me so angry sometimes. Why do you push me like this? I love you so much. That's why I get crazy. Please forgive me. And somehow, through her pain and confusion, Juliet found herself apologizing to him. Apologizing for answering her brother's call. Apologizing for making him angry. By the 4th month of marriage, George's abuse had become routine. The 3rd major incident happened when Juliet went to visit her parents without telling him first. She had only gone because her mother was ill, and she tried calling George several times, but his phone was switched off. When she returned home that evening, George was waiting in the living room, a bottle of whiskey on the table before him. The moment she walked in, he stood up slowly. Where were you? His voice was deadly calm. My mother was sick. I went to... Did I give you permission to leave his house? Your phone was off. I couldn't reach you. So you thought you could just do whatever you want? He walked toward her slowly, and Juliet felt terror grip her heart. She backed away, but there was nowhere to go. Please, George, I was just checking on my mother. He grabbed her hair and dragged her across the living room while she screamed. He threw her down on the floor and kicked her in the stomach, then in the ribs, again and again while she curled into a ball trying to protect herself. You will never leave this house without my permission. Each word came with another kick. When he finally stopped, Juliet lay on the floor unable to move, pain radiating through her entire body. She tasted blood in her mouth. George stood over her panting, then suddenly seemed to realize what he'd done. Juliet, get up. I'm sorry. Get up. Let me take you to the hospital. But the apologies meant nothing anymore. At the hospital, George told the doctors she had fallen down the stairs. The nurses gave Juliet sympathetic looks that told her they knew the truth, but they said nothing. 2 of her ribs were bruised, and she had internal bleeding that required medication and rest. When they returned home, George was tender for 3 whole days, bringing her food in bed, apologizing constantly, promising to change. But Juliet had lost all trust in his promises. Even worse than the physical abuse was what came next. One evening, 2 weeks after the beating, Juliet was in the bedroom when she heard George's voice in the living room, but he wasn't alone. A woman's laughter floated through the house, high and shrill. Juliet's heart hammered as she opened the bedroom door, slightly, and peeked out. George was on the sofa with a woman Juliet had never seen before, a fair-skinned girl in a tight red dress. They were kissing. Juliet's hand flew to her mouth to hold back a gasp. She closed the door quietly and sat on the bed, shaking. An hour later, George opened the bedroom door and walked in with the woman. Juliet stood up, shocked. George, what is... This is Anna, he said casually, as if he'd just brought home a friend. She'll be staying tonight. What? George, this is our bedroom. And this is my house, he said coldly. You'll sleep in the guest room tonight. Juliet couldn't believe what she was hearing. You can't be serious. Don't push me, Juliet. His voice held that dangerous edge that she had learned to fear. Go to the guest room. Now. Through tears of humiliation and heartbreak, Juliet gathered a wrapper and left her own bedroom. She lay in the guest room all night, hearing sounds from her matrimonial bed that broke her heart into pieces. This became a pattern. George would bring different women home, sometimes even during the day, and Juliet was expected to either leave the house or stay quiet in another room. After 6 months of hell, Juliet finally gathered the courage to go to George's family. His mother lived in a big house in GRA with his 2 older sisters. Juliet arrived on a Saturday morning, her body still aching from the beating George had given her 3 days earlier. She knelt before his mother and his sisters, tears streaming down her face, and told them everything. She showed them the bruises on her arms, the fingerprints on her throat, the way she winced when she moved because of her still healing ribs. "Mama, please talk to your son," Juliet begged. "He's killing me. I can't continue like this." George's mother looked at her coldly. "What did you do to make him angry?" The question hit Juliet like a slap. "Mama, I didn't. My son is a good man," George's eldest sister cut in sharply. "We raised him well. If he's angry, it means you're not performing your duties as a wife." "But he beats me," Juliet cried. "He brings other women to our bed." "A man will be a man," George's mother said dismissively. "Your job is to manage him, to pray, to be patient. Do you think marriage is easy? You young girls of nowadays, you want to run at the first sign of trouble. This isn't trouble, Mama. This is abuse. Watch your mouth." The second sister stood up, pointing at Juliet. "You came to our house to call our brother an abuser? Is that what your parents taught you? To disrespect your husband and his family?" Juliet couldn't believe what she was hearing. She looked from one face to another, seeing no sympathy, no concern, only anger that she had dared to complain about their precious son. "Juliet," George's mother said with finality, "go back to your husband's house. Stop making trouble. Marriage requires patience. If you're a good wife, he'll change. Now go." Juliet left that house more broken than when she arrived. If George's own family wouldn't help her, who would? She thought about telling her parents, but shame held her back. They had been so happy about the marriage, so proud that she had married into wealth. How could she tell them it was all a nightmare? So she suffered in silence, becoming a ghost in her own home. She barely spoke anymore, barely ate. She learned to predict George's moods, to make herself invisible when his anger was rising, to endure whatever he did to her without complaint. One night, after George had beaten her for serving his food too cold, and then brought that woman Anna to spend the night again, Juliet lay in the guest room and prayed for death. She actually prayed that God would take her, that she would just sleep and never wake up, because anything was better than this life. But 2 days later, something happened that changed everything. Juliet woke up feeling violently ill. She vomited everything she tried to eat. At first she thought it was stress, but when the nausea continued for a week, a terrifying thought came to her. She bought a pregnancy test from a pharmacy 3 streets away, where nobody knew her. In the bathroom, with shaking hands, she watched the 2 pink lines appear. Pregnant. She was carrying George's child. The pregnancy news filled Juliet with conflicting emotions. Part of her felt a fierce, protective love for the tiny life growing inside her. But another part felt horror. How could she bring a child into this house of violence? What if George hurt the baby too? What if she was trapped forever now? She sat on the bathroom floor for over an hour, crying and praying, trying to figure out what to do. When she finally told George that evening, his reaction surprised her. His face lit up with genuine joy. "A child? We're having a child." He pulled her into his arms gently, more gently than he'd touched her in months. "Juliet, this is wonderful. I'm going to be a father." For the next 2 weeks, George was transformed. He stopped bringing women home. He stopped hitting her. He was attentive and kind, making sure she ate well, asking how she felt, even cooking for her once. Juliet wanted desperately to believe that the pregnancy had changed him, that fatherhood would bring back the man she thought she'd married. But deep in her heart, she knew better. And she was right. The change lasted exactly 16 days. On the 17th day, Juliet accidentally broke one of George's expensive whiskey glasses while washing dishes. His face went dark instantly. "You clumsy idiot." Before she could apologize, his hand connected with her face. Juliet stumbled backward, her hand instinctively going to her stomach. "George, please, the baby. The baby, the baby," he mocked. "You think the baby makes you special? You think I won't touch you now?" He advanced on her, and Juliet ran. She ran out of the kitchen, toward the bedroom, but George caught her in the hallway. He grabbed her from behind and threw her against the wall. Juliet's back hit with crushing force, and she slid down to the floor, gasping. "Please," she sobbed. "Please, I'm pregnant. I don't care." George shouted, and then he kicked her. His foot connected with her stomach, and pain exploded through Juliet's body like nothing she'd ever felt before. She screamed, and he kicked her again, and again. Juliet curled around her belly, trying to protect her baby, but George was in a rage beyond reason. He kicked her ribs, her back, her legs. When he finally stopped, Juliet lay on the floor bleeding. Blood was pooling beneath her, soaking through her dress. "George," she whispered. "The baby. I'm bleeding." For a moment, George stared at her at the blood, and something like fear crossed his face. Then he turned and walked away, leaving her there on the floor. Juliet lay there for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. The pain was unbearable, and she was terrified she was losing her baby. With the last of her strength, she crawled to where her phone had fallen during the struggle. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely dial. She called her mother. When her mother answered, all Juliet could say was, "Mama, help me," before she passed out. When she woke up, she was in a hospital, and her mother was sitting beside her bed crying. Her father stood by the window, his face hard with anger. "My daughter," her mother wept, holding her hand. "What has he done to you?" The doctor came in shortly after, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes. "You're very lucky," she told Juliet quietly. "The baby is still alive, but you have severe bruising, and if you'd waited any longer, you would have lost the child. You might have died." Juliet's mother gasped and began crying harder. Her father's voice was like stone when he spoke. "She's not going back to that house." Is this the end of their love story, or the beginning of something darker? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video for more interesting, intriguing, and captivating stories. See you on the next one.